Jose Mourinho has told Sky Sports News that Dele Alli will stay at the club beyond the transfer window, but has urged him to take responsibility for his performances. Alli will be in the squad for tomorrow's Europa League qualifying match away in Macedonia after being left out against Southampton.
Every club has situations where players are not playing, players are on the bench, players are not selected. And it looks like it's only for us that every time that some player doesn't play or is not selected, it looks like it's something that doesn't happen in many other places. When you are not in a good moment, you don't play. There is a tendency now of when a player performs or the player doesn't perform, to give responsibilities on coaches, and some because they gave him the right glove, some because they gave him the right stick. I always feel that 99% of the responsibility is the player. I always told that he will have his opportunities.
So while there was no direct confirmation in the news conference that Alli would stay at Tottenham, there afterwards, Mourinho sat down with our reporter Gary Cottrell.
Just to clarify, I think you nodded at the news conference when you were asked whether you thought he would be here come the end of the transfer window.
I believe. I can even say that I'm convinced that he will be.
Fascinating stuff there from Jose to Gary Cottrell. Cavi, what do you make of those comments?
Well, that was classic Jose. I think basically he is saying to Dele Alli, you're not going anywhere, but you have to prove to me that you are good enough to be in my first team. Nobody can take anything for granted at a club as big as Spurs. And he is saying to Dele Alli, convince me on the training ground that you deserve to be back in the first team. It's also, Jose's got a bit of an old-fashioned attitude when it comes to man management and how he manages his players, trying to get the best out of them. And he was kind of saying that there's been a bit of a media storm just because I've left somebody out. Look, this kind of thing happens the whole time. It's part and parcel of football. And as always, our colleague Gary Cottrell, of course, did a great job in that follow-up interview by asking those questions and getting Jose to say that Dele Alli was definitely staying at Spurs.
One thing I would say about the Dele Alli situation, and you can relate it to a lot of transfers, it would never be in Tottenham Hotspur's interests to say publicly that they would be willing to release Dele Alli, because all that would do would be to drive any potential transfer fee, if he was to go on a permanent deal, down. They have to maintain a public stance that Dele Alli is going nowhere. And if privately they are considering any kind of sale of Dele Alli, publicly and other clubs will know they want to keep him. That's the intimation that they will have made. Hence, keeping his price at a certain level. It would never be in Tottenham's interest or any club's interest to make it public that one of their players is available for sale. It just would not be in their interest at all.
He's basically just challenging Dele Alli, isn't he?
Yeah, that's the interesting point here, isn't it? How does Dele respond?
He's just challenging, saying, look, part and parcel of being a professional footballer is being left out. It's how you cope with that. It's how you react to that. Show me that you deserve to be back in my first team. He's challenging Dele Alli.
It certainly generated a lot of debate, but then you look at what Tottenham did. There was the Fly in the Wall documentary with Amazon All or Nothing. We could all see what was going on there with Jose Mourinho and with Dele Alli. There was the lazy remarks, and see how he'd respond to that. So it's going to be fascinating to see how.
And it'll be very interesting now, because of the late closure of this transfer window. We will only have another 2.5 months, 3 months until the window reopens. Let's see where Dele Alli is if he does stay in this transfer window during the next 3 months. If he's being left out of squads, will he then consider his future himself in January? Because by then there will be 6 months until the European Championships. Dele Alli will want to be part of England's squad for those European Championships, and to be part of that squad he will need to be playing regular first team football.